There's a lot of people out there that maybe they have their house listed. Here they are, 3, 4 months later, it's still not sold. So what do they do? What are their options? I'm getting more and more people that reach out to me. They'll ask me about, seller finance or a different deal. And they say, hey, is this legit? Can I do this? And my answer is always the same. And it's kind of a typical attorney answer, right? It's
Yeah.
well, it depends, right? It depends on those details. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's possible, but the details mean everything, and how you do it to make sure both sides are protected. So let's talk about some different options. So what's cool about this, I feel like once I got into this world, I kind of went like, regular transactions, like it opened my like world up to this, like there's so
Yeah.
many different things you can do. Let's talk about seller financing. There's a lot of people out there that maybe they have their house listed. They saw those prices people were getting last summer and all that craziness. So they said, yeah, I want to do it, but they're a little bit behind. So by the time they got their house listed, here they are, 3, 4 months later, it's still not sold. So what do they do? What are their options? One is just keep lowering the price. What options would someone have in that position, Rochelle, where they're trying to sell their house, but it's no one's buying it?
One thing, my mind's always tapping into my realtor side and my investor side. So I want to talk about all of it because I feel like the questions that I have, other people are going to have. Okay. So it's like lowering the price. Let's talk about options and lowering the price. From my realtor side and being a listing agent for a very long time, lowering the price does not serve you realtors in a buyer's market. Because as a buyer, if you're lowering the price, I'm going to wait until you get your lowest price possible and I'll let it sit on the market, right? The buyers are a little bit more control. So the thing about it is if you're a realtor, I really want to challenge you guys to learn these different strategies so you can add this to your skill set. And if you're not interested in it, at least have a partner that could give you some options as to what you can do. Now, what is their options if it is sitting on the market? So one, these are what us investors are looking for, right? The realtor can't sell it. So we're going to come in with a creative option. That option is going to depend upon all of the things that me and Rilus were talking about in the beginning, really understanding the lay of the land, what they're wanting to do. And I'll use a real life example of a property that me and my husband are potentially thinking about buying in our neighborhood. So it's a property here in Oceanside. And I think maybe I mentioned this to you, Rilus. They have it on the market. They are behind on their mortgage, which sometimes this happens in this market and sometimes it doesn't, but it's been sitting on the market for over 90 days. I talked to the realtors, gave them a call, let them know I lived in the neighborhood. And they said, hey, I heard of creative finance. I have no idea what it was, but that you could hear the desperation. Like obviously they want to make their commissions. Obviously they want to help their client. So it was building that rapport with the realtors to be able to understand there's other options. So what it ended up happening was tell me exactly what the sellers need, not just what their cash price is, but what are they doing? So they were a military family looking to move to Texas that needed a down payment on their property. The down payment that they needed was $50,000, and they wanted to include some of their moving expenses with it. After talking with them and getting kind of the rapport built with the realtors, we really realized they needed $20,000 after talking with them, right? It's obviously the realtors are representing them. So finding those options goes back to really being good and understanding that. So what we were able to do is to be able to buy their home on terms. Now, this one did include a subject to, and I don't want to confuse anybody, so I just want to focus on the terms part. So what does that mean? How do you find that solution? So I want you guys to think of equity a little bit different than how we were taught to think of equity. Whenever we think of equity, we think of, okay, the house, we owe 200,000 and it's worth 500. So we have that $300,000 equity. But equity can also be in interest rates. and in terms. So what I mean by that is me being able to structure some terms for them while taking over their mortgage. I have equity not only in the property, but I'm taking over their mortgage at 2.75%. So that's equity and interest rates.
I like that. So equity and interest rates. So that's
Yes,
a good way of pointing out these low interest rate mortgages have value. So
100%.
so like this scenario, it sounds like they have other equity too, but let's say someone has none of that other equity. Let's say they just bought their house, 500,000, and now they need to move.
Yep.
You know,
That's a prime scenario because people say, how would they have a creative option? Build some equity for them. Obviously, when we're going to this investors, we're looking at the property. I'm seeing what's the ecosystem around it. What's my rental rates? Can I Airbnb it? Is the property going to increase in rental value? And we know doing inflation, rental prices continue to go up. So I'm looking at all of these things. And even though they have no equity, I could probably get into it with close to no money if I could do a subject to. But if it was someone where they didn't want to do subject to, I could do it on terms. And I could say, you know what? You don't have any equity in your property. I'm going to give you 20,000 of that, not upfront, but I'm going to pay that 20,000 to you over 10 years. So what have I done there? I've beat out my realtor partners. I've beat out my wholesale partners because I'm not buying at a discount, nor am I charging them commissions. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but I'll probably pay for that. But the retail listing agents can only list at what the property is worth. I'm able to come in as a creative investor and say, I will give you some of that equity, or I will do the exchange and take over your loan and pay for your moving expenses. So that's a great scenario. And that's actually really common. I get a lot of people, Rilus, that are like, well, they don't have any equity in the property. So what can I do with it? You can tap into it, you know?